looking good. I changed up the capture card, so hopefully this works. Hey there, NGC. I see you coming in. Ellie Wynn, number 2. Yeah, it got cloudy also. It's just one of these jinxy kind of nights, you know? But we ride. Morgan Ellis, I see you. Mary, welcome. Hoi hoi. So what's up? FLA. So I see everyone back in. Let's continue the show as if nothing ever happened. I think the levels were good. I checked it on the other computer when I paused. So, I'll sing until I can't sing no more. No more. Let's play till we can't play no more. Sing a song about the moon. Oh, I will steal your heart, steal the heart. place on earth. It was your lively intervention. It's the favorite since birth. The longest chair in my confession. Lifetime in search of good intentions. But you find out what to do. If you don't, then you're screwed. You'll burn and search out the truth. In the light of the moon, come down. Mama, oh, don't make them come round. In the depth of the frequency star, little man, come on, to make them come round. In the light of the moon, come on, oh, I will steal your heart, I will steal your heart. In the light of the moon, I will steal your heart. Your heart, come on. In the light of the moon, in the light of the moon, come on. In the light of the moon, in the light of the that story, don't make believe that story. It's just too much, don't make believe that story. Just that story, oh, that story, oh, that story, in the light of the moon. I guess Selena's playing hide and seek. Hide and seek. À la lumière de la lune, s'il vous plaît, capitaine. Capitaine. Winsley. Hello, kitty cats. At 17, couldn't tell you I was living the dream. What could I do for a while? I played the field. How could I prove that hidden yield without the blues to feel? My heart was cool and left no residue. Well, catch me if you fall, catch me when you're low. The moon goes high enough, like love used to know. Catch me if you fall, catch me when you're low. goes high enough, like friends who used to know. Yeah. Catch me if you fall, catch me when you're low. No. Come on, baby, catch me when you're so much more than this. So come on, girl, catch me if you fall, catch me when you're low. That was a fun version. Stretching a little bit. People are outside. It is Easter weekend, huh? Oh, I see what you're saying. Gloria again? It's just a concept, Mary. Just a concept. Around Borax, what's going on? Welcome back. Patrick McNellis, everybody. Am I missing anybody? Well. Okay, Jedi Princess, you're here. Oh, it's wondrous to see you all here. Yeah, my space family's here. So great to vibrate along with you. It's when my life was taking the sofa down the street. And I waited on the corner while they locked up the truck. I said, hey bro, I need a fix. He said, no, look. Oh, different ways, suffering days. I can't even remember my own face. Oh, I was the one that stole the silver key. But the truth is, God, you were the one that said you'd slay the bees. But when it's all around you, around you, no, come on, oh, it's all around you. So. Do you know why I've been beaten from the heart? I know, no lie. I've been thinking about you all night. Why? No why. I've been waiting for your white light. No why. I've been thinking that you should be mine. So call me up. up, and let's get down, 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 yo, down, down, down. So call me up, and let's get down, 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 yo, down, 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 down. You sent me messages across the cosmic network, and you sent me pictures from across the astral plane. And you send me pictures across the match network. So call me up, and let's get down, 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 yo, down, down, down. So call me up, and let's get down, 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 yo. Je t'attends mon amour sexuel, ainsi le monde que l'indeximel, ma chétane en désermène, avec on en sourire. Je suis la même que dans l'avant, mais chaque jour je t'attends, mon amour avec les mêmes cercles rêvés. Mon amour magnétique, c'est l'amour magnifique, mon amour et toi magnétique. Cool running, no water. You'd water, cause why? Please, rider, whatever it takes, please. I'm dreaming from the hot eyes, no lie, no lie. Been dreaming of your hot eyes, no lie, no, no, no lie, no lie, no lie. So call me up, and let's get down, 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 yo, down, 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 so call me up. Oh yeah, yeah, so call me up, let's get down. I'm so grateful that the image is stable. Alright, that's un petit peu will-powered. What else should we play here? Did Hurricane earlier. Sorry for the heavy breathing. It's just because this mic picks up a lot, and yeah, I'm pushing it tonight, going for a live show feel. Live show feel, let's see. Alright, this is interesting. Down, down. The days spent beyond this room, even if I feel incomplete. Slow, difference we flow, dissidence within, ignorance without. I hold you up to be, I hold you up to this light you, till you're free, all like me. So I fall the breath. That's high, excuse me. Let's try it again. So I found the bridge, before you hit the ground. Oh, so I found the bridge, before you hit the ground. Yeah, I think that's a little out of my range tonight, because I don't want to butcher anything. I tried it. Know what I'm saying, NGC? We try things, but sometimes we fail. Let me try something that's a little bit simpler. That top note, I don't know why I write stuff like this. So stupid. So damn stupid. All right, let's have fun with this one. Rise up with me. Rise easy. Rise up with me. And I must feel open up and smile. And I see your eyes coming up to life. Always, always living with love. And I've been feeling so on top of the world. It's simply giving. It's just this soul I'm giving. Rise up. Easy. Rise up. Original mindset, original mindset, original mindset, original minds, great original. And I have this thing for me, 'cause I need no one to know me. And I get much more than I was waiting for. Yeah, and I need no pain to harm me. Just a couple of nights to warm this firelight. Walk the mind, walk the line, walk the mind. So rise up easy, rise up with me. It's all a naughty good show, exactly. Yeah, coming right back at it. I want peanut butter. Oh, I can't eat peanut butter and sing. That's a big no-no. But when you said peanut butter, now I'm thinking about it. Let's try this one. Left to say on the edge of the shores another, and into the night smell like the city. Here our love is the only simple way. Oh, deep down in the slumber, deep down in this jungle. See now, now this jungle, and how I feel so long, no matter the deal. Sighing and watching, oh friend, how you feel. Oh, my life burned by depression. Oh, it's the light in all my secret ways. With no one to stay here, we'll soon find those sacred words. Oh, sleep down in the slumber, deep down in the slumber. Beat now in this jungle. How you feel? So long, no matter the deal. Sighing and watching. Friend, how you feel? Yeah. Oh yeah. I see Astralis. Oh my God, missed all the vibes. Welcome back. Welcome all of y'all. Did I miss anyone else? Rainbows and Butterflies, you're back too. And Genghis Khan. here. I don't want you down my chimney. I don't understand your cause. Enemies like Easter bunnies. I don't wanna play the poor. 44 v 44. Don't sweep the streets no more. Oh, I don't seek incentive vision. Healing comes in high regard. Where is it? Where is it? There we go. I can live in center vision, living comes in high regard. Build your peace with love's intention, then I might believe we're gone. 44 v 44, not counting sheep no more. 'Cause we go down, oh deep down in the wells, there we are. Those caterpillars multiply, go down, oh deep down in the wells, there we are. Ooh, don't count on dealing all this poster. I have yet to speak my law. On the knees, it's preacher's money. I don't even read the score. 44 v 44. Ain't sweeping streets no more. Automatic Easter depression. Cash machines can go to hell. I don't need your Easter bunnies telling me what news to sell. 44 v 44, not count sheep no more. 'Cause we're golden, oh deep down in the wells, there we are. Those caterpillars multiply, golden, ooh, oh deep down in the wells, there we are. Ooh, da 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 da, yeah. Golden, your laugh golden, your smile golden, your life, your life, your life, your life golden. So I'm getting some buffering here. I hope y'all are not experiencing that. It's just so weird. Definitely a jinxy stream tonight, but really enjoying playing tunes for y'all. Aw, Patrick, appreciate that. What's next? One more and then I'll take a little break here because I could keep going all night. Alright, this... no, that's gonna like give me trouble. What about this one? Maybe. Let's try it. Got enough, no doubt. got to steal to have it all. I create everything I want every day. Oh, that was terrible. Let me try that again. Got enough. There we go. 2, 3, 4. Got enough, no doubt. Got to steal to have it all. I create everything I want every day. Some hard to live, which is wrong. Style says suffer on what you give. If you could synthesize your every pain, I think it grows in heavy souls and trickles down the hemispheres into machines. Collective iris, the machines. Collective iris. Oh my love, I make no misstatement. When you arrived, no other would do. Oh, what dreamers buy. This love is misshapen. You beg me for the crown. I know it's up to you. Point me up into, and if it was your mythic collection, I know you're distracting me from the truth we hadn't forced last night. My love geometry will lead. Oh, the music blazes, get higher in space, man. Receiving your love, believing in something. The music blazes, get high up in space, man. Receiving your love, believing in something. The machine, collective iris, the machines. Collective iris, the machine. Collective iris, the machine. The machine. The music blazes, get high up in space, man. Receiving your love, believing in something. The music blazes, get high up in space, girl. Receiving your love. Now we believe in something. Come on, something. Receiving your love, believing in something. The machine. Collective iris. Yo, yo. See some old friends in here. What's up, Justin? Galveston in the house. I see Dudley. Feeling the vibes. Snowflake, Arizona. What's happening? Welcome, welcome. The machine. Dallas, Fort Worth in the house. Love it. Lots of Texans. One of my besties is having a baby in Austin tonight. Rooting for her. Okay. Let's see. Myself in a dream, I tell ya. Locked doors, no flaws in this fantasy. Take the night, cause everything's meant for your pleasure. Hold you home, you found your tone, you found your treasure. When you play, your mind, your face. The needlessness to raise. Wave, it's the love of the age. Start to save just a corner of your page. On top of the wave, I found the love, I found the sage. I'm coming to say I know it is your fate. I've been solely hot for you. I've been so wrapped up, it's true. Puffing slow, take off with you. I've been slowly rocking you. heart for you. And sold a heart for you. But you know it's true. Love and slow take off with you. I've been torn apart. Oh, I've been torn apart. Oh, help me see the way to the end. Tumbling and sincere. Don't you see there's harm in us to cure? You should know you're standing up, police and shit. Staying, saying, babe, won't you come back home? I've been your throne when they take you far. But what might we take you for? It's the loves of the age. No story to save, just a corner of your page. On top of the wave, I found the love, I found the sage. Coming to say I know it's your fate. Been sold a heart for you. Been so wrapped up, it's true. Puffin' slow, take off with you. I've been slowly rocking you. I've been sold a heart for you. I've been sold a heart for you. No, it's true. Puffin' slow, take off with you. I've been torn in power too. I've been torn apart. Oh, help and breathe away. That one's a tough one. That's a really tough song. Mary, Mary, who's leaving? Anyone leaving? Oh. Good weekend to you, yes, Mary. I thought you were leaving, but you're not. Okay. Catch a candy bar. That would be so cool. What's one that I can quickly do and then a break. And so come into the scale. I was stolen by the rock star. Don't know what you're killing for. Staring up at those familiar lights, enormous. Don't make me pay the cost. I wanna live another day, of course. But what does it all mean? Is it all just one bad dream? But I'm trying to forgive, locking those lips to break them apart. Just stuck in this orbit, doggle tricks to sweeten the spoil. Stuck in the coil. Where does this feeling come from? Or where do I get the right to ask such outrageous questions? Or where does this feeling get me? Or how do I know it's right to ask those crazy questions about everything in our world, about electric, universe things, plasma things? So where does this feeling take us? Oh, where does this feeling take me? Where does this feeling take me? And now I know I have the right to ask those outrageous questions. No. But I'm trying to forgive, locking those lips to break them apart. orbit, a sparkle of tricks to sweeten the spoil. To diamonds in orbit, diamonds in orbit, stuck in the coil. I can't play forever, be without you. Oh, I can't play forever, be without you. Trying to forgive, I'm trying to forgive. All right, little break time. Little bitty break. We got 10:32 on the clock. I gotta adjust the lighting and the tracking and the streaming. It's just all jinxing out tonight. I guess that's what you trade for being able to sing well one night. It's all a trade-off. I see some more people showing up, but I don't see anyone say hello. But all right, I'll be back in a couple of minutes. I'm gonna pour up a new drink, maybe something a little stronger this time. I know I have a cocktail sitting in that fridge, but once I hit that, it's all downhill from there. Yeah, I did want to talk about plasma physics and consciousness. I listened to a few podcasts recently. Friends of mine have been sending me things. They're like, yo, you really have to listen to this and tell me what you think about it. One of them in particular was a Tim Ferriss podcast where they were talking about consciousness and the field. So there was a little bit of discussion around field consciousness, but let me take this break first, and then we'll talk about it. Pulling up a song right here. What shall we play? Got some Bring Me Back in here.
Bring me back.
actually back. Okay, dad joke. All right, 10:38. Since we have a beautiful full moon on our hands and a steady stream, let me talk a little bit about plasma physics, consciousness, electric universe, and such, because I haven't done it in a while. And I think it's worth saying, because everything of this nature for me, I think is just like, so few people are actually talking about it, and every time that I can articulate it for people in a simple and understandable way, I think it's worth the effort. So let's talk about consciousness, baby. So what is consciousness, and how do we interact with the universe? So if you imagine that at the very smallest size, and actually let me just pull up some images here so we can sketch and talk, walk and talk. I don't want to ruin the image of the moon, but you know, I'll sketch right beside it. Let's get paint up in here. Make sure that's coming out okay. This should be yellow, larger. Let's scribble a little bit and see if that shows up. No. Oh no, it did. There we go. Yay, scribbling on the moon. So yeah, not to ignore the Luna tonight, let's quickly do a couple of hot spots. We got Tycho Crater, beautiful parallel ray feature coming out this way. Borealis, you got Oceanus Procellarum, the wolf head over here. I'm not going to draw the scary wolf, but that's my wolf real quick. Look more like something else. This also looks like something else. Let's try this again. So yeah, it's got Oceanus Procellarum and clouds. All right, perfect for me to sketch on. It's fine. So when we were in school, we had this idea of a nucleus, right? So we had protons and neutrons packed in the center, and then we had electron shells around it, right? I'm only saying this because I think this is the easiest route to understanding the fundamental geometry of our reality. And so when I grew up, I thought, okay, there's this tight packing in the center, and remember, the idea is that the nucleus is so small compared to the size of the overall atom, right? So this is an atomic structure. And so you have these orbital fields of electrons spinning around this nucleus, and differential in charge, basically charge differential between the nucleus and the electron shells, is what consciousness actually is at the most fundamental level. But really no one articulates that specifically. Oh, I guess is this under the word live at the top corner? I hope not. Let me see. I'll move that down a little bit. What's going on, Jacqueline Alvarez? How are you? Welcome. All right, that sucks. Let me try that again. So we got our nucleus, tightly packed nucleus, protons, neutrons, electron shells. Bear with me here, I haven't done this in a long time. I just wanted to show this fundamental shape. So I've shown the shape before when it comes to the hypotrochoid, or the pinched tube, and you have the helix, right, the twisted Birkeland coaxial filament that goes through every object at the very fundamental scale. And because you have intense energy oscillation, you get this pinching, and you create this shape like an hourglass, and it funnels upwards and downwards. And this is three-dimensional, of course. And then you have the dielectric inertial plane. And this, essentially, if you trace it all out, you'll see that we've seen this shape countless times in nature. The most basic one being the shape of our face. The face of all creatures ultimately has this kind of symmetrical, or not kind of, has a symmetrical organization. And eyeballs form along this plane, like nodes along a filament. But we also have a filament going through our spinal column from the top of our crown chakra all the way through the root. And so along the Birkeland filament that's twisting through the top of our head, I'm trying to do this, right? So that's the shape of our head. You have your ears. Your ears are funnels, right? And your ears are emanating pings into the field. And the eyes are also towards us emanating fields like that, spirals. If you look at these spirals top down, they're Fibonacci spirals. When you look at them sidelong, they're funnels. But really what happens is they get to a point, they get to a field layer, plasma field. And what plasma is, it's organized dust, molecules, energy, solar wind, ions, neutrinos. It's basically a cymatic knot. And every knot essentially is a fractal recursion of every other knot. So the eyes, your chakras, a nucleus, this node along these wave intersections. So transverse wave interference patterns happen between every oscillating atom in our universe. I know it went very complex very quickly, but let's see. What's going on in the chat room here? Rockstar, great to see you. Yeah, boobs, exactly. As you go down the body, the reason we have symmetry is because of the Birkeland filament that runs through the top of the body. Let me actually show you in images because it's a bit easier than me just scribbling all over the place. But this is the fundamental idea. It's not just human bodies, but every organized system in the universe, from the smallest quantum particle, the indivisible quark, muon, gluon, Higgs boson, all of these have the same structure, this tiny, tiny nucleus and the shell structure around it. And consciousness emerges as an emergent property of the interaction between nucleus and shell. The same way a human being interacts with its shell, and the interaction between human being and its memory layer is what I think the human condition of consciousness really is. The emergent property is from this interaction between the layers. So I'm trying to find this image right here. Where is it? Is it downloads? No, it's TBS. And I guess let's look at snow leopard first. Oh, these are bubbles. Bubbles are great too, but all right. So here's one image. You've probably seen this in terms of like either magnetic field lines or magnetic flux, but ultimately you end up seeing that the same shape is here too, right? Let's try a different image. Let's find this snow leopard. And I thought I had it right here. There it is. All right, don't be freaked out, but there's a giant snow leopard on your screen. There we go. So snow leopard and the shape of our noses and faces and the shapes of all creatures are emergent properties of this fundamental geometry. From where the eye placement is and symmetry of that, to trees, amoeba, microscopic organisms, and then of course, if you expand this outwards, you'll see that it happens in our solar system constantly, and there's no reference to the fact that these things are exactly the same emergent property. So this is obviously on its side, but the bubble, the Fermi bubble, proves this without a doubt that this is the actually fundamental shape of our world, if you had X-ray vision. So let me jump back in the chat because I haven't been looking at that for a moment. Let me also hide this. Lost Brooklyn, I see you in there. What's going on? Welcome. I see Zap. How did we get there? To where? To me scribbling everywhere? I was just trying to explain this idea that we live in a reality right now where popular science talks about, or neuroscience or cognitive neuroscience talks about, like slicing the brain and figuring out where consciousness is, the hard problem of consciousness. There are all these different documentaries, different talks, different ideas about like where does consciousness reside, what is consciousness, what is memory, where's memory stored, and how do we access memories. And so the most reasonable explanation for this is what I was just showing, which is the fact that there's an extended mind and human beings and all particles, because they're of fractal field recursion. And recursion just means at every size the same thing happens. But because all the things exist at once, you have all this overlapping of these fundamental shapes. And because of that, you have all the complexity of the reality that we see. So when you look at a Mandelbrot fractal, for example, it doesn't look just like this hypotrochoid toroidal hourglass shape. You know, it looks like a trillion of those were overlaid and then they emerged to become this fractal. So that's sort of what I'm trying to say. So it's not immediately apparent, but we do see these shapes constantly in nature. And so here's one example of how it exists on the moon, and it exists in geology in that sense. So I'm going to pull this up real quick, and then I'm going to erase all this stuff. And you'll see that up here, this is Sea of Serenity, this is Sea of Tranquility, this is Mare Imbrium. But between Sea of Serenity and Sea of Tranquility, you have this fundamental geometry, where if I drew the shape, you have the toroidal field, you have the hypotrochoid, and you have the Birkeland filament pulling these two things together. So this is what I believe is so fundamental to proving the fact that this geometry is what, the self-organizing geometry that is, I saw somebody talk about it today actually, that I think I was recommended this person, and I want to just make sure I get the name right. But was it like Burns? What's this guy's name? No, Dan Winter. Yeah, Dan Winter's Psychotronics Masterclass. And so I think somebody did mention Dan Winter to me a couple of years ago, and I don't think I looked it up because he did look familiar, but I hadn't seen this talk, and he really does have the math figured out for this fractal field geometry. And he uses similar terms that Ken Wheeler does, theorioapophysis, where it's conjugate, collapsing conjugate functions. I'm butchering it because I need to watch it like a dozen times to get the terminology down, but he's saying the same sort of thing. He's saying that there's this perfect balance that nature already has built in that is both additive and multiplicative. And what's cool about that is that what that means, right, is that let's say we have a human right here, stick figure, right, and there's a Birkeland filament going through the stick figure, twisting Birkeland filament. Our chakras are along the Birkeland filament like stars. So in the night sky we see stars. in between the stars, you have these Birkeland filaments. They're just in dark mode. So what is dark mode? When your finger goes to touch a door handle and you get that little spark, like static charge, this little static charge wasn't not there. It was always there. It just goes into glow mode. When you have a cloud and it hits the ground with a lightning bolt, that lightning bolt was already there. It just goes into glow mode because it was in dark mode. So the connections between everything already fundamentally exist, and we only see things when they oscillate in terms of creating foci. This word is what I found out today is something I've been trying to say, the articulation of things. And what does that mean? That means, let's go back to this person. This person is radiating and creating layers of time consciousness. So that sounds really kind of fancy, but what it is, it's like dusty matter, invisible to the naked eye, but really like, it's not really invisible to the naked eye, because by this function, these transverse wave functions, we actually see and hear and sense everything. So to say that that you can't really see them actually starts to not make sense, because that's how we actually see things. So let me try and simplify this a bit more. Get rid of all this stuff. And let's make a bigger person. Man, my drawing skills are atrocious today. All right, bigger person. So when you're born, you're a dot, and you start oscillating. Every little oscillation layer creates a bubble of plasma. This plasma is encoded with three-dimensional cymatic waveforms, essentially encoding the very nature of our reality in these transverse wave functions. So the heart is oscillating. Every chakra is oscillating. That's what the membrane, the brain of the stomach, or the brain of the heart, or the brain of the mind, or the throat. These are membranes, right? If we think about it like that. So three-dimensional bubble coming outwards. And then everything is consciousness. So consciousness is also pushing in on us. It's impinging upon us. So our head is fat, our neck is skinny. Our chest is fat, our waist is skinny. Our hips are fat, our legs are skinny. And then the arms, fat, skinny, fat, skinny. Legs, fat, skinny, fat, skinny. Peas in a pod, right? Fat, skinny, fat, skinny. Wavefront, fat, skinny, fat, skinny. Recursive fractalism, done by conjugate attraction repulsion of forces. And what that means is that basically nature at a fundamental level self-organizes using attraction and repulsion and the electric force. And it organizes itself into fundamental geometry that we see everywhere. And that's why not only language and consciousness, but human form, all form in nature, all planets, all geology, all thought, everything in the universe is fundamentally based on the same exact mechanism and shape. And of course, because everything is that, it's also overlapping. So the overlapping creates these little nodes, and those nodes themselves have the similar shape. So everything itself is conscious within our conscious field at its level. And when you ultimately get to the size of a human being, you have such a complex organism working together, creating what we perceive as a complicated cultural, linguistic human existence. But in fact, every single item, Planck quantum unit in our reality has a version of life. But there's no other. There's only the combination of the two things. So there's also one other aspect before I stop here, which is this kind of self and other relationship, the size of the nucleus to its shell, for example. So why do you have a nucleus that's this small and an atomic shell that's this big, right? Why do you have a sun that looks this small, but its heliopause reaches out to, insane amounts of astronomical units past what seems reasonable? So what's happening is the sun is creating all these different layers, and ultimately the sun is quite old. So the sun's original birth is the edge of the heliopause, where the Oort cloud apparently exists, but this is really what the edge of the thing, the skin of the apple, so to speak. So an apple starts at a point, and it grows, and it grows, and it ultimately becomes an apple. The apple traces the Birkeland filament, and the apple core traces the hypotrochoid. But there's a relationship. Nucleus to shell, apple seeds to flesh, sun to solar reach, solar heliosphere, right? Earth's magnetic fields, right? Every planet, every item, every tiny point in the universe has the same layered field mechanic. The furthest away is the youngest that particle was. The closest to the particle is the closest memory that we just had. So as I'm talking to you, I'm resonating with my closest field layer, but also all the field layers that I have of my whole life. So it's an additive function of my current oscillation with the outer shells. And then because I do that, then I produce the next layer of plasma that incorporates those two transverse wave functions from the interaction between the field prior. This is how cultures retain culture. This is how your body retains its shape. This is how this is what genetic code actually really is. It's not on a floppy disk, you know, and it's not, so to speak, written by a programmer. The genetic code is this structural fundamental geometry with electric forces determining these perfect additive multiplicative structures and points in reality where they collapse into these shapes that we see, this fundamental shape. So finally, to wrap it up, so you also have somebody who's performing, and you have the whole audience. You have governments, kings and queens, and you have all the serfs, all the turfs, all the serfs. And on, this kind of relational quality between the tiny amount and the many. And what happens here is that this is the relationship between matter and antimatter, dark matter and matter. You need all the dark matter, all the emptiness, all the emptiness that you see here between the nucleus and the shells, the flesh of the apple, right? You need all the space between the sun and its outer layer. You need a small band to an audience, because if everybody in the audience were performing, there would be no band. And if everybody were governing, there would be no governance. And if everything were packed, there would be no differentiation between the two. Same thing, if an apple were only seeds, you couldn't eat it. And if a sun filled this whole space, there'd be no room for its children or planets. So there's this fundamental relationship between the 95 to 5, 99 to 1, the 80-20 paradigm that you might have heard of, but this kind of imbalanced ratio is created as a manifestation of the organized geometry here. It needs to do this in order for us to see anything. The universe impinges upon what essentially is light and creates it and makes it bright enough for us to see in a universe that's fully threaded and connected with root systems. All right. Any thoughts on that? And we lost our moon too, but I got through that all. All the serfs defend their turfs. Correct. I guess that's where religion comes in. So I could go further on this, but let's see what happened to the moon. Is it just getting cloudy? What happened? Huh. Maybe we just lost it. I suck at tracking. There we go. Still got a little moon. I must have talked a lot. Here we go. that's the top of my windowsill, so I'm gonna go that long. I'm just reading all this stuff. So let's see. NGC says, Stickman, once time and space is not an issue, then consciousness can be anywhere. True, true. Genghis Khan, Particle Man. Zap says, it feels like I'm listening to God, listening to God talk about the secrets of life. So let's talk about that for a second, because I had a great conversation with a person who was putting me on the spot about this God thing. So what do we think about God, right? There's the narrative story of God. There is the imagined, idealized God. There's the media and books and magazines and publishing side of God. You also have experiential God, so people having religious experiences by themselves, with people, this kind of outer body experience, being reborn, getting close to death, and having all these different types of experiences within the field. Then you have the idea of the God that takes and gives life. Then you have a God that maybe can perform magic, right? That can make things materialize out of thin air. So I would ask you, so where I got to basically is, besides, once you get to this point of electric universe and plasma physics where you realize, okay, there's a structure to the universe. There's no doubt that there's a structure to it. Magnetism and electrodynamics and electricity, the electric force do exist, and they act upon each other, and we are manifestations of that. But then we get to a point where we're like, why do we feel other? Why do we feel separate? Like it's us against the world, or it's our view, this relativistic understanding of the one, the self and other. And the reason, one of the reasons, is what I just mentioned, which is the relational quality between the self and everything else. And everything else is experiential to the self, but each other self in this experience is also having that same experience within their bubble. And so that's how you can really kind of throw your mind into the mind of another and extend your consciousness beyond your own consciousness. And we do this all the time, but we're not really aware that we're doing it, I believe. I see more Jello. Let's go Winan. Zap, you take it easy. Take care. Your own personal. Not gonna finish that. Get a copyright strike. But I love me some Depeche. But yeah, so anyway, there are a couple of things I was thinking about. One of them being, who is growing your body right now? And who made your eyeballs and your brain and the skin? And who digests the food? And when I say who, I mean physically who? Who what? Do you do it? Or does the universe do it to you? And what I would argue is that because you actually do it, that is the proof. And that sounds really stupid, but it actually really makes sense. Because right now, you use your eyes and you can't articulate how. And because you digest your food, but you can't articulate how. And because you grow your own hair and you can't articulate how. Just because you can't articulate how you do these things does not mean you don't actually do these things. So every single person, let's just say people, all people on Earth, all 7 billion, 8 billion, 1 billion, however many people exist on Earth, all do the same, all have the capability to eat and sleep and do all the functions, right? So they do all the things, whether they're evil or whether they're good or whether they're somewhere in between. They all know how to place eyeballs in the right place. We all know how to digest food. We all know how to use not only the eyeballs, but the ears and the senses and the hair and the brain, right? We have scientists and doctors telling us that all these parts of us are not really us. They're things that we look at and we can, oh, look how crazy the brain is, so crazy. But the brain is us, right? At least your brain is in your own head, right? So you have ownership beyond a narrative. And I think that's where the fundamental principle comes into play, because when you start taking ownership over growing your own body, you start to realize that we are the embodiment of a God-like universe. So it's more complicated than that, but at the at the first level, it's understanding this self and other ratio. So why you feel small in the face of a giant world, because of what I showed you earlier, this conjugate geometry of the fundamental reality. Okay, so self and other, but we do exist. So by virtue of existing, you grow this body and you place eyeballs in the right place and hips, and you can do all this magic that we think a god can do, but we actually tell a story of us being so weak and limited. And, you know, you've heard these things like, oh, if we could only see all the colors, you know, human beings can only see a fraction of colors, a sliver of colors of the spectrum, right? Or bats or dogs can hear so much better than humans. If only humans could, blah, blah, blah. However, if you could hear everything, you would hear nothing. And if you could see everything, all spectrums, you would see nothing. Because matter, is articulation. It's sound relative to silence. It's light relative to dark, right? It's the articulation, the foci, the focus, transverse wave overlap of our oscillations that actually creates these articulated moments, these cymatic twisted waves that Rupert Sheldrake talks about, that our Birkeland filament, using chakra vortices, connects with as we exist. So in an ongoing rhythm, we interplay between self and other. Other being this plasma shell, like the flesh of an apple, or the shells of an atom, or the heliosphere around the sun, right? The sun is actually the size of the sun and its heliosphere, right? It's not just the center of the sun. So why are we just human beings and everything outside of us is other? No, everything outside of us is also us. Everything. And it makes sense, because how do you see, right? There are foci, articulated information that enter your field. And our eyes magnetically and electrically resonate with these foci and then create further geometry within our own structure that interprets it. It's light interpreting light. So, Jello, take care. So we have that. So we also grow ourselves, and we also die ourselves. So humans are responsible for their own birth, and because if you ask the question, who were you, or what were you, or where were you, the self, before you were born? And you really consider that, and you start to think, you're like, I must have been somewhere, because I was once nothing, and now something. And once again, when we die, we return to nothing. And so think about this idea that there's no proof in life after death, or there's no physical proof for some of these kind of grander concepts. But in fact, there is kind of this implied proof that before you actually existed, you must have not existed. And so you have 2 points of data, and then we have 3 points of data by virtue of the fact that everybody dies. And so now we have 3 points of actual hard data that say we didn't, then we were, and then we didn't. And so that actually kind of leads you into this idea that, like, maybe it actually keeps going at that point. And so I know I've said this before, and a lot of y'all already believe this, but this idea of reincarnation, cyclical life, I'm just trying to relay it in a way that's more physical and more based on this geometry, and also the metaphysical and philosophical side of it, because that's also really interesting. But when you look at it from vortexial geometry, you'll see that these wave fronts, these sound against silence. I'll give you another example. The reason we can feel pain is because we can feel pleasure. If you could only feel pain, there would be no pleasure, and only pleasure, there would be no pain, right? And so I'll give you an example. So your finger can be cut, but your finger can also feel the softest touch against skin, you know? You wouldn't want it any other way, right? You wouldn't, if you couldn't feel pain, you also could not feel pleasure. And on, you know, it's the same thing. So even further, let's say you're eating something sweet that's really delicious, and at some point it starts to get nauseating because there's this wave front physically that actually gets to a place where it's like, it becomes diminishing returns, as they call it. But it's really the wave front kind of returning to nothing. And this is the same thing with being born and maturing into a golden age and then rotting. And then flowers and apples and trees and the earth and the sun all follow the same process. Yeah, the Luna is gone. Unfortunately, Jedi Princess, it's way above my windowsill at this point, and it's been on a really sharp westerly ecliptic, so it's kind of, it started off really far, southeast tonight, and it's kind of going up diagonal, so. Luna's gone, but at least we had a good hour with our beauty, and I got to play some songs for y'all. I got to talk a bit about the geometry of our reality. Did I miss anything? I mean, think about it. We grow ourselves. We made our own eyeballs, and just because we have these abstract attributions to these facts doesn't make it any less factual that you made your eyeballs and you grow your own skin, and likely we have an extended mind, so a cloud consciousness, not a inner brain consciousness. It explains outer body experiences. It explains the geometry that you see when you rub your eyes and have DMT trips. You see hexagons and octagons and intersecting fractal recursive geometry shapes that we think we're imagining, but it's real. Honeycomb craters, pour over coffee, features on Earth, all these nested hexagons are meaningful. It's not just, oh, that's funny, it's a cool coincidence. No, these things are exactly what they actually seem to be. And so we, as human beings, from every walk of life, have the ability to make a human body and kill a human body. And that makes us, in some ways, in all ways, God. An aperture of the God principle, but also in actuality, the God, because you are digesting food right now, and you came out of nothingness into somethingness. You know, you could attribute it to your parents, but after your parents, after you leave the womb, the self does all these magical things. We manifest everything. We do create items out of thin air. It just ends up being machinery. And we do, and songs, and on and on and on. So humans, every human does godlike things, but the narrative tells humans, no, do never think of yourself this way. Why would you ever think you are so great? It doesn't mean you're great. It just means that you're both great and terrible, right? God doesn't imply only good. That's the real difference here, is that God implies all, not just one. I think that's the beautiful nature of it. Then you start to realize, you're like, wait, there's a strong likelihood that there's not only an afterlife, but a continued existence, right? I'd like to, because afterlife or reincarnation kind of has its own narrative structure to it, but really this idea of cyclical, ongoing life that, you know, makes a lot more sense than we just die and nothing happens, or there's this some sort of karmic retribution part of it where there's a heaven and hell aspect. it makes a lot more sense that there's oscillations in a Birkeland filament, and this is really how things are determined. So those are some thoughts. Let us see. So yeah, we've lost the moon, and I'm done talking for a second. I said a lot. Moon is huge over California. Hell yeah, love it. I'm gonna probably go sit on the porch, have a smoke, and enjoy it. Anna L says, I can personally attest that the rotting stage sucks. I don't exactly know how to respond to that, but I would say that from, you know, I've had, yeah, I don't like to take away anyone's experience by saying I understand it, because I probably don't understand what you're going through. But I do live with chronic pain, and this idea that pain is something we hate and we despise and we stave off pain. I've started to kind of use this idea that I've been talking about to try to love pain and try to accept pain as this payment for existing. But I also don't want to diminish anyone's struggle. So it's a pink moon because of, I think, a certain type of flower. Was it, I'm missing it. It's some blossom, some, yeah, I love that I'm talking about this high-end science stuff. I can't remember the name of a damn flower. Is it a, I don't want to say a crocus, a lotus, a lily? Maybe it's the lilies. Anyway. All right, y'all. So I'm going to call it a night. I'm a little tired now, but this was super fun, and singing was really good. All right, some of it was. I really enjoy performing for everyone, and it's great to see all our friendly faces, our space fam, as per usual. Another show, getting up there in the maybe 700s at some point. I don't think I'll really ever get back to counting exactly how many, but I know it's somewhere in the late 700s, early 800th episode here. But I'll say a very pleasant good night to everyone. I'll try and get on again tomorrow night, perhaps, or the night after, and try and figure out what's going on with... No, everything's sorted now. I got this, the camera's working, so no more problems. So thanks everybody so much. I'll play one song to ride us out here. And, excuse me, and if you come back and listen to this about my rant about consciousness, and definitely check out Rupert Sheldrake, Rupert Sheldrake, Eileen McCusick, Thunderbolts Project, Pierre-Marie Robitaille, Sky Scholar, Ken Wheeler, Theorioapophysis, and on, Eric Dollard, and this new guy I just found. Let me find his name. I keep forgetting his name. It's crazy. Dan Winter, and Buddy Dougherty, and all the others who are doing the right type of work. Dreamboat Time. I can get down to that. Oh yeah, just a quick reminder. TakeBackSpace.bandcamp.com. Added new songs. I'm just going to link y'all. Thanks everybody for the support. Lots of y'all picked up some tunes, so thank you, thank you, thank you. Amy G, great to see you. Hopping in at the very end, super stoked. Thanks for the peace and comfort. Thank you so much. Always lovely to see you. I'll try and shout out everybody. Patrick, have a great one. Jedi Princess, Morgan Ellis, Ellie Wynn, Mary Quite, NGC, Anna L, Ellie Wynn, Astralis, Genghis Khan. We had Zap, and we had Rockstar, and who else? Justin Me, and Red Rum, and Dudley, and I think I saw Miguel earlier, Rainbows and Butterflies, Sensei Camilla I also saw, and Lost Brooklyn. There we go. I feel like I caught everybody. So new songs up on Bandcamp. Go check them out. I promise I'll add some more, and we'll do another show really soon. Much love, everybody. Captain signing out.